Hi, friends. Just assembling all the things. Hi, Rumi. I am just assembling all the things, getting all the devices together. I'm going to try this again where I'm streaming on both YouTube and TikTok. Hi, friends. This is a bookish space, so if you're just joining, expect lots of bookish things, bookish talk, reading, a little chat. Yes, I changed locations. It is cold. It is a lot colder today than I was expecting. So for a while, I was walking around reading because I didn't want to sit and read. There's some other things going on there too. But I was walking around wrapped up in my Snuggie. And I just may put the Snuggie back on. So I wanted to just kind of sit on the couch along with all the blankets because all the multiple blankets are right here and just hang out. So I have this little clock that I think would be good if I can just get it set up. It would be good to do my timer instead of using my computer for the timer. Every now and then you want to go half digital. So, okay, why is this? Trying to put batteries in. Rumi may not be so active today because she's doing her English project. Okay, Rumi, I understand. Whoa. Okay. That's all right. Thank you so much for being here. Alarm off. Let's start with alarm off. Now, can we set it? How does one set this thing? Hi, friend. Trying to, okay, hour. I finished reading my book that I was reading yesterday. I got a little pile here. Things that I'm going to talk to you about or read or write in. So I finished reading this. It's a 5-star. If you are in the market for a book that is about the beginning of a relationship, why a relationship is necessary, and how a relationship progresses, all the dynamics surrounding a relationship, because relationships are not just, people who are attracted to each other because they want to get married. Like, that's not the only kind of relationship. This book delves into so many different expressions of relationships and why they are necessary. How sometimes when we lose loved ones, it leaves a place in our lives that need to be filled by other people, not necessarily that those people are replacing the person or the relationship that was lost, but that connection, that need for connection needs to be filled in other ways. And I just adored everything about this book. I love the discussion about the movies. It provides this connectivity. It provides this framework to build on. And I also really like how, even though the people in the book don't necessarily watch all of the movies that are mentioned, it gives you a reference to other kinds of art that you may be familiar with and other expressions of relationship that you may criticize, but also realize are necessary for other things. So I just love this book. So, shout out to Penguin Random House for having published this book in the first place and for having gifted it to me. It was released this past Tuesday. And if you are someone who loves holiday movies, um, if you love holidays, just holiday expressions and how like just how things are different around holidays, then I would highly, highly, highly recommend this book for so many reasons. It's really well written. Matthew Norman is the author. Matthew Norman is the author. I don't know if you've read anything by him before, but if you haven't and you want to pick up something that is holiday themed, something that is feel good and heartwarming and sad but also hopeful and explores like all the things about relationships, then definitely want to recommend Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon by Matthew Norman. And even though on the cover we are seeing man and a woman and a dog, there's so many more people in their lives. There's so many other characters that appear on these pages, and I think you'll just love all of them. You just love all of them, even the ones who are kind of like the villain role, because for a story to work it must have a villain, right? For us to have a hero, there must be someone who is working against the hero, the anti-hero, if you will. Thank you so much for joining. I'm streaming today on YouTube and TikTok, so I'm trying to talk to both of you at the same time. Highly, highly recommend Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon by Matthew Norman, because it deals with so much. It deals with loss and grief. It deals with reimagining life after a painful event. It is set around the holiday season, so beginning in like October, November. I'm not even sure when does the book begin. I don't even remember, but it is following a family, two families. It's following two families that they're really interesting to read about, and the settings are just diverse enough and they move around enough for you to just like be interested the whole way through. So hi, my cozy little library is here. And Rumi 24 Runwright Reads Girly, my number one fan, says, when I come across this book in the store, I will buy it. It looks so good, even the storyline. I do not think anyone would be disappointed by this book. I just love how they talk about movies in here. And it gives you a place where, if you are a fan of any of the movies that are mentioned here, it gives you a place to kind of discuss or have the discussion about the movie and why you like it, and maybe why it was a movie that you liked in the 90s, but it hasn't aged well. We live in a lot more politically correct society. And it's not even political correctness. It is growing awareness of why some things that we liked may be problematic, because maybe before we didn't think about how other people would relate to some kind of stimuli. And now we do. And now that we do, and now that we're aware of why it may be an issue for someone else, we are more inclined to stay away from it, or more inclined to speak up and advocate for other people. So yeah, Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon. I finished it. It is 5 stars. I will be talking about this for a while because it's holiday themed and we are coming into the holiday season. So if you are interested in the synopsis, I'll read the synopsis for you, because now that I have finished the book, I know what's a spoiler and what isn't. So I'll tell you. If I paraphrase, that's because I don't want to spoil the experience of the book for you. Thank you so much for the invitation to co-host, but I'm not looking to do that right now. So hi to the friends joining on TikTok. Hi to the friends on YouTube. I am trying to just share the love with both of you. So that's why we are doing these things together. I'm just going to move TikTok a little closer. Okay, here we go. So here's the synopsis. Well, okay. The tagline says it's a sentimental, I think that's a good word, sentimental advertising creative and a blunt, no nonsense bar owner find a second chance while binge watching iconic holiday movies in this heartwarming romance. Um, that says a lot, but it's a little. mm, It's not quite what the book is about. Number one, the advertising creative is more than just an advertising creative, and it sums up some part of his job, but it doesn't really tell you the most important thing about his job, which you find out when you read the book. And the blunt, no nonsense bar owner, yes, the bar owner is a bar owner, but that's also not the most important thing about the bar owner's character, and you learn that later. So here's the actual synopsis. The new year had hardly begun when Grace White and Henry Adler both lost their spouses. Now, nearly a year later, the first holiday season since their quote unquote great and terrible sadnesses approaches. Although their mothers scheme to matchmake the two surviving spouses, it's clear that neither is ready to date again. Yet no one understands what they're going through better than each other, and a delicate friendship is born. When Henry sees an ad for Christmas movie marathon, once an annual tradition for him and his wife, Grace offers to watch some films with him, despite her aversion to a few of his picks. Her two young kids, Ian and Bella, also join in whenever possible, bedtimes permitting, of course. With each movie, Grace and Henry's shared grief eases as they start to see a life beyond the sadness. And that doesn't mean that they start to see a life with each other. It just means that they are able to start kind of, it's not even moving on, but realizing that other things are also happening aside from just how they're feeling about what they've lost. But as they draw closer, other romantic possibilities leave them uncertain about their future together. And that is something that's really interesting. That is not just about them. There are other people. There are other people in the periphery. And it's just really, it's just really well done. It's a really well done, really well written book. So kudos to Matthew Norman for having written this book. I think because the book is written by a man, you could tell that he gets women. He understands a lot about women. I don't know if he has, well, he says he lives with his wife and his two children. I feel like that whole family dynamic is really well represented here. And he just really gets a lot of things about women. So the description of the women in the book, also very expertly drawn. So yeah. Grace and Henry's holiday movie marathon. So I didn't look at the discussions in the back. There are some questions and topics for discussion. Which character did you identify with more, Grace or Henry, and why? Why did you think the author chose to make holiday movies such a key element to the book? Grace and Henry lost their spouses in very different ways. Which do you think is more difficult? Um, Grace and Henry both speak to the ghosts of their deceased spouses. There's a typo in here. Despite the therapist's word of caution, do you think that behavior is ultimately healthy or unhealthy to their respective grieving processes? Um, there is also this line. I'm not going to say the question exactly how it's posed in the book or in this discussion list, but it's a character who tells another character that people can love and love, that they don't just love one person from beginning to end. that you can love and love. And it's such a, it feels like such a guy thing to write. But do you agree with that? Do people only have one true love, or can they love multiple people? Can they love multiple people at the same time? Um, so that's the question, I guess. That's the question. And the acknowledgments in the book, the author's statements to the reader, where he thanks his team. And oh, it's actually called Letter from the Author. Anyway, the letter from the author to the to the reader. I'm sorry. The letter from the author to the reader actually says, oh, and I don't want to get into a big fight about this, but Die Hard is absolutely a holiday movie. Best to you and yours, Matthew Norman. This is on my list of best books that I have read this year. That's how good this was. Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon by Matthew Norman. A fantastic holiday read, but also a really good feel good about some things that happened. And yeah, I absolutely cried. I cried so much in the last like 30 pages of the book for lots of different reasons, because there are different reasons why you'd cry. Like there's a scene that is so sad. Like it is the saddest scene that you could contemplate. But then there are also some scenes that are feel good all the way through, exactly like a holiday movie. Because if you watch some of these holiday movies, especially if you're like the Hallmark holiday movies, there's some real tear-jerking moments, some of which are frustration, tears of frustration, because you can't believe that the characters have done this thing, and you don't think that, it just doesn't seem like they can come back from, just doesn't seem like they can come back from that action, or however that works. So now that this is done, I need to think about what I'm going to read next. So I have some candidates. I need to reread this for book club, and I need to read this for book club. So I think I'm actually going to start with this one, because I think, given that I've already read this and I haven't read this one, that I should make sure that I have this read by the end of the month for book club discussion. So this is The Grand Paloma Resort by Clavis Netero. This is Neruda on the Park by the same author. The Runwright Reads Book Club reads books by Caribbean authors. So we have a schedule. I set the schedule at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year, we make amendments as we need to. So, like in the middle, in June, we had Caribathon, which we always have Caribathon. But at the beginning of the year, even though we know that we're going to have Caribathon, the book, which is going to be the group read for Caribathon, hasn't yet been chosen. So the book that we eventually read for Caribathon was Passion Tide by Monique Roffey. And we'd had that on the schedule to read later in the year, but we pushed it to Caribathon because, so this is what the group read, the Runwright Reads Book Club schedule looks like for the year. So if you could read it, Passion Tide was the book that we had selected for our book club for December, but we actually read it in June because we chose that as the group read. And it's not that I didn't think that Passion Tide would have been a good read for the book club. I'm mixing up myself. It's not that I didn't think that Passion Tide would be a good candidate for the Caribathon group read. It's just that at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure what books are going to be available, if they're going to be new books that come out that we just can't wait to discuss for Caribathon. So I had Passion Tide on the schedule just to read with the book club, and then we pushed it forward and read it as the group read for Caribathon in in June, which means that now we have a space in December that needs to be filled. So I say all of that to say, in throughout the year, we sometimes make amendments to the schedule, and we'll read a different book at a different time. In Similarly, in August, um, August we had People Person by Candice Carthy Williams scheduled, and August is when my life kind of started falling apart, and I wasn't able to get my hands on People Person at the time. I had taken it from the library earlier in the year, thought I'd read it in advance, but I didn't get back to it. And I just really wanted to read a different book instead. Some of the book club members, when I polled them, they weren't really feeling People Person anyway. So we substituted Love Forms by Claire Adam in the spot for August. And that worked out fine because we those of us who read it and had a discussion about it, we really enjoyed that book. So had no problems replacing a book. So in October, in October, we have on the schedule this book, Neruda on the Park by Clavis Natera. This was published a couple of years ago. It was published in 2022, and the publishers had gifted me this one. And I was really happy to get it because I love when the publishers send me books, but I'm also super psyched when they send me books by Caribbean authors because that tells me, Random House publishes a book, it's mainstream. And this is an author who was born in the Dominican Republic. She's an American now, but she, completely represents the Caribbean. So I'm always super psyched when I see books by Caribbean authors being published by the big publishers, the big publishers. So I was very excited to receive this in 2022, and I read it back then when I first received it. But we didn't discuss it as a book club, so I wanted to put it on the list for the book club. So Neruda on the Park was our selection for October. However, since January, the author also published this book, The Great Paloma Resort, Clavis Natera, author of Neruda on the Park. So the publishers had gifted me this one as well. And it came in the summer, sometime, I think, in the summer, and I haven't read it yet. I really want to read it. So my thought was, should we replace the book club schedule? Replace this book with this book? But I went through a whole thought process and I asked the book club members of the people who would be reading the books this month, of the people who would be ready to read and discuss the book. Which book do they prefer to read? Do they prefer to read Neruda on the Park, which came out in 2022, or do they prefer to read The Grand Paloma Resort, which came out in 2025? Because for some people, it's easier to get access to a book that has been published sometime before. You may be able to find used copies online. You may be able to find copies in the used bookstores, or you may be able to get a copy from your library easier because there's no wait list. It's not a brand new book. Brand new books sometimes have 7-day hold, or they may have a maximum amount of time that you can get it before you have to return it, that kind of thing. So would it be easier to get access to a book that is 3 years old, or would it be easier to get a brand new copy? Would it be easier to get a book that is newly out? It's going to be in a lot of libraries. You may find it much easier in a bookstore. If you're going to a regular, like a Barnes and Noble, it's still going to be on the shelves at the front of the store because it's a pretty new release. So would you prefer to read this one or this one? Or if you are like me, would you prefer to read both and compare the books, compare the author, compare the author's writing, that kind of thing? So all of that to say, I am going to read this one. I'm going to start this one today because I need to read it for the first time. And I'm going to reread this before our book club discussion. but I need to read this first. So I'm going to start with this. This is blurbed by some amazing authors that I have read from. It is blurbed by Disha Philyaw, who wrote The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, which I have not read, but I have heard really great things. It is blurbed by Charmaine Wilkerson, who is the author of Black Cake and Good Dirt, both of which I have read. Both of those have been discussion points. No. We discussed Black Cake in the Runwright Reads book club. We haven't discussed Good Dirt yet, but I have read it, and I think it would make a really good discussion, but maybe not a discussion for the book club, just because of what we tend to look for in our book club books. So I don't know yet. I don't know what the schedule will be like for next year's book club picks, but we read Charmaine Wilkerson's Black Cake together. And most of our members who are here for the discussion really liked it. Haven't read Good Dirt with the book club yet, but I have read it and it was a fantastic read. I love books about art. Oh, that's another thing that this book has. It has some artistic discussions. So if you like books about art and not just, a book that's mainly about an artist, there is someone in here who is artistic, and the discussions about artistic representation and about use of medium and how art represents life and life reflects art. I love in books. So yeah, another reason to pick up Grace and Henry's Holiday Movie Marathon. Anyway, Charmaine Wilkerson's Good Dirt also deals with artistic expression, and it's a book that I really, really enjoyed. Xochitl Gonzalez, I'm not sure if that's how that name is pronounced. Xochitl Gonzalez is the author of Olga Dies Dreaming. That's another author who blurbs this book. Karen Slaughter, author of Pretty Girls, another author. Christina Garcia, author of Vanishing Maps. I haven't read these authors before, but Angie Cruz, author of How Not to Drown in a Glass of Water. I've read that. That was a book club selection from last year, I think. Fantastic read. Elizabeth Acevedo, author of The Poet X, along with lots of other books that I have read, some of which we have read for the book club, including Family Lore, Elizabeth Acevedo. I love her writing. I like her books that are more YA focused, like The Poet X is YA verse book, a novel told in verse, and it has a young adult character, and I loved it. Her book Family Lore, I think I liked a little less because it was probably her first adult novel and not told in verse, and I think I preferred the other ones, but I still like her writing. Miriam J.A. Chansey also blurbs this book. She is the author of Village Weavers, which we read for the book club. I think Village Weavers was also our group read for Caribathon last year. Excellent. Miriam J.A. Chansey is an excellent author. So if you get a chance to read any of her books, I think you won't be disappointed. And Alejandro Varela, who's the author of The Town of Babylon, also blurbs this one. Haven't read that author. So, very brief synopsis. I'm just going to read a couple of things because I'm going to start reading the book and I don't want to spoil it for myself. So we're reading about a local Dominican woman. So the author, Clavis Natera, let me show you her picture. That's Clavis Natera right there. She was born in the Dominican Republic. She migrated to the United States when she was 10, and she grew up in New York City. She is... Yeah, so these are her only 2 novels. This is her debut, and this is her second novel, her sophomore book. So the book is about a Dominican character, Laura. Laura is a local Dominican woman who, through sheer hard work, has risen through the ranks to become a manager at the luxurious Grand Paloma Resort. Her idea to match platinum guests with a resort employee to attend to their every whim has been wildly successful, and she's just weeks away from a promotion that could blaze a path for her off the resort and toward a life of opportunity. So that's what this book is going to be about. Grand Paloma Resort. So it's set on a hotel resort setting. Um, I don't want to read. I don't want to read further in the synopsis. Of course, it's going to tell me in the next line what happens, and I don't want to know that yet. I want to learn that organically. So we do know that we're going to be reading about the Dominican Republic and that resort experience. Which, if you have that background, or if you've heard about that background, a lot of those hotels on Caribbean or exotic locations, look at these island settings, a lot of those hotels are billed as paradise, but they're not really paradise for the people who work there. So matching a hotel employee with someone who has come to the hotel with the expectation that their every whim is going to be satisfied, and that everyone who is there is a part of their fantasy, a part of their catering staff, their personal catering staff. You know, those expectations sometimes are unrealistic, and it's not always funny to see how it's lived out. So I don't know how that is going to be personified in the book, but I'm looking forward to reading it. So the Grand Paloma Resort is what I'm going to be reading today when we start our reading sprint. So let me know in the comments what you're going to be reading if you're reading along with me. Thank you so much for being here. It is Friday. I think I'm going to stay on here for about 30 minutes. First, I'm going to try to set my clock. Okay, here we go. Set. Can I do? Trying to set my clock. It is telling me that it is 12:29, but it's actually 12:13. So let's see if we can fix this. 12. No, today. Date set. Okay, time set. Here we go. It's working. I'm setting it. Okay. Date set. Minute. See? Twelve. Just need to make it 12:14. Okay. And minute, date, hour. Okay. Date set. I'm going to change it when it changes to 15. I want to change it so that it's right. Hi, friend. I'm setting my clock so that we can setting my clock so that I'll be able to do a little bit better with my timer and alarms rather than just using my phone. Okay, there we go. So now the time changed to 12:15, so I change it to 12:15. All right. Now the next thing to do is to set the date. Today is the 17th. 17th of October. So I set the time. Set the time and I set the date. October 17th. Now it's asking me to put an alarm. So how do I set the alarm? Okay, there we go. Alarm set. Ah, okay. So it's 12:16. We're going to set a 20-minute timer so we could do some reading. So 20 minutes. Oh, 20 minutes is going to get us to 12:36. Okay. 12. Okay. So I got the alarm set for alarm on. Oh, got lights. Do we want light? No. Snooze light. Oh, it will be good over here. I think. Maybe that's better. I don't know. All right. So we have the alarm set for 12:37. Thank you, Rumi24. Runwright Reads Girly is doing her project instead of reading. So happy reading to me and happy project to you, Rumi. All right, 12:37. Now we're 19 minutes because it's 12:18. So alarm on. Where should I put it so that we can see it? Can I put it here? Okay, we're experimenting. Okay. This is the book I'm going to read. I don't think you could see it. Sorry. All right. I'll just look at it. 12:19. I'm going to read. Let me know if you're reading along with me. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be reading The Grand Paloma Resort by Clavis Natero. I'm starting now. Now I have 18 minutes left to read. So let me know if you're reading. Put it in the comments what you're reading. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate your company. The opening is a description of what the hotel, the resort looks like. The Grand Paloma Resort, Paloma Falls, Dominican Republic. Welcome to the Grand Paloma Resort. Our luxury, all-inclusive, 4-diamond rated property rests on 2,500 acres of beachfront land, located in Paloma Falls, Dominican Republic. Aside from our 4-diamond rated accommodations, we also house a master's approved golf course, a world renowned spa with a composite score of 5 stars by Forbes, a suite of tennis courts designed by the Williams sisters, and 11 restaurants, including the only Michelin starred restaurant in all of the Caribbean region, Mondongo. All areas of the resort are available to our Platinum and Executive Platinum members. Enjoy consciousness expansion workshops, yoga, meditation, mud baths, shaman healing sessions, energy shifting workshops, and a raw farm to table diet, rated number one for wedding readiness by New Bride magazine, alongside our revolutionary back to nature walks guided by our conservationist team. A map of the resort grounds can be found on the next page. A history of the Dominican Republic will be furnished upon request. Paloma's signature platinum bracelets. The Grand Paloma Resort's signature platinum bracelet is a collaboration between local artisans and our very own jewelers. It sports a braided band made with locally sourced cotton fibers mixed with Egyptian silk and gold threads for durability. The signature platinum dove in flight is a symbol of the freedom and joy we hope you feel as we care for you. If you lose the bracelet, the replacement fee is 1,500 US dollars. Bracelets must be worn at all times on and off the resort grounds. So it's not that they're telling you that the place is exclusive, but if you can't afford this, then you can't be there. To replace the band that you need to wear if you are going to stay on the grounds, just to replace the band is 1,500 US dollars. At the Grand Paloma Resort, our number one priority is to keep you and your loved ones safe. A few tips: don't leave the resort grounds. If you must leave the resort, do so accompanied by one of our resort's companions. There are legal consequences and steep penalties for the consumption or sale of illicit drugs. Kindly note that only registered guests are allowed on hotel premises. Unregistered guests cannot be added to an existing reservation. The U.S. Department of State has urged caution when traveling to when traveling to Caribbean destinations and has recently issued a level 4 advisory in the Dominican Republic. Claims of civil unrest, violent home invasions, armed robberies, sexual assault, and homicides are common. Our resort has never experienced a single incident of violence. There is no safer place to rest, play, and work than within the confines of the Grand Paloma Resort. But it is important to remember to be safe. Anything you wish for is within your reach on our resort's grounds. There is no request we will not fulfill. See, you're just setting yourself up for trauma. We offer a remarkable elevated guest experience every time. We hope you have a lovely stay with us. Welcome, you parasites, your team at the Grand Paloma Resort. Okay. See, when you say that there is no request that you will not fulfill, you've set up these expectations for me that may or may or may not be unrealistic. But if you say there is no request that you will not fulfill, I mean, why wouldn't I go there? Anyway, let me read. just about a minute. So it's been just almost 20 minutes. Hi, friend. Hey there. I am reading The Grand Paloma Resort by Clavis Natero, and it is 12:38. I was going to go to the end of the chapter, but the chapter is a few more pages. So I'm going to pause here because I'm at page 35. So, like I said, the book is set on a resort, and we're reading about these two sisters, Laura and Elena. And Laura has an executive position, and her sister Elena, a little younger, and she works as a babysitter on this property. And so she's one of the people who, when families come, they can hire her to take care of their children while they go enjoy the other amenities that the property offers. And when we meet her, Elena is carrying a little girl who has been hurt. She's been charged with taking care of this child. And it's the opening line. The tourist child's mud-streaked body had become heavy and sweat. The tourist child's mud-streaked body had become heavy, and sweat made her slippery in Elena's arms. So we meet Elena first, which says, is Elena the main character? As she made her way out from the tropical forest behind the Grand Paloma Resort, Elena headed not in the direction of the manicured grounds, but into the water-starved, cracked dirt of the staff quarters. Looking down at the little girl's unconscious form, she whispered, "Please, please, please don't die on me." That's how we meet Elena, the babysitter. And later we see her communicating with her sister, trying to get her sister to come to figure out what is happening and hopefully to resolve it. And we also meet another woman named Vida, who is kind of a spiritual healer. And there is talk of a young man, another man that they know, like from their community. His name is Pablo. And they're all working at the resort in some way, officially or unofficially. And so we meet them in these first 35 pages or so. We see them in their various positions. So whether or not Vida is able to help the little girl, you'll have to see. And we're learning a little bit about the fact that they're all from the same community. They've all come to work at this resort. And there is a lot of connectivity between the characters. So we know Laura and Elena are sisters. We don't know necessarily if Pablo is a brother to these two sisters, but we know that he and Vida, I think it's Vida, live in La Vida. He and Vida are at least used to be romantic partners. And Vida means life, right? So she is a person who is life to them. So there's more to this group than meets the eye, of course. And we're seeing little hints of what it is that they actually do on the resort. We know Laura is the executive, Elena is the babysitter, but mm, um, other things we're not so sure about yet. We have to just read more. So the book is set on the Grand Paloma Resort in the Dominican Republic. I have to read up and find out if there is any historical accuracy here, if there is a Paloma Resort, or whether these names of places that are mentioned here, if they're real places. I don't know. Almost sure they will be. So that's what I've been reading. Let me know in the comments what you've been reading. I would love to hang out for a little longer. So I think I'm going to just read a little more. I want to finish the chapter that I'm on. I'm at page 35 and the chapter ends at page 48, and that would be the end of chapter 7. So let me know what you've been reading if you're going to hang out with me a little longer. And we'll wrap this up maybe in another 10 minutes or so. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Hi. Thank you so much. This is a little bit of a bookish space. I usually film in front of my bookshelves, but today it was just so cold. I wanted to just sit down on the couch with all the blankets and read. So that's what I'm doing. Thank you so much for being here with me. I am reading The Grand Paloma Resort by Clavis Natera. This is one of the books that we're going to be reading later. No, this is one of the books that we're reading to discuss with the Runwright Reads Book Club, where we read books by Caribbean authors. This was the book that was scheduled for the book club for this month, but the author released this book earlier this year. So we had scheduled this in our lineup at the beginning of the year. So in January, well, really in December, when I sent the book club reading list to the book club members, this was the book that we had on our list for October. But somewhere in the middle of the year, the author came out with a second book, her first since her debut. This was published in 2022. This came out in mid 2025. So I would just like to read and discuss the two of them this month. So that's what I'm preparing for. So reading this today, and later, as we get a little closer to the book club discussion, I will reread this because I read it, 3 years ago, and I've forgotten some of what happened. So I need to reread it, but I'm thinking that I will be ready to discuss the author's work in both books. That was my discussion plan. A little bit of a comparison of how the author represents the country of the Dominican Republic, how she represents the country in the books, and compare the representation in one book over another, or talk a little bit about the characters, how the characters reflect maybe what you think you expect from a character from the Dominican Republic, what you think about the characters in the two books, and compare them. Those are some of the things that I like to do when I read books, multiple books by the same author. And it's one of the reasons I keep going back when I find an author that I like. I keep going back and reading more things from them because I like to be able to compare their work. My cozy little library is over here on YouTube, and she says, "I wish I could read the book as well. Maybe after exams." Yeah, we read we read a book every month. You can join anytime. The book club is open. If you want to read a book with me every month, that's great. If you want to dip in and dip out and read books that match your specific interest or your timeline, your availability, also perfectly fine. So yeah. Other books that we have on the schedule for the rest of the year include My Broken Language, which is by Chiara Alegria Hudes, I think is how her name is pronounced. That is the book that we have set for November. I think it's a memoir, and I had chosen it with Nonfiction November in mind. And the book that we had on the schedule for December was Passion Tide by Monique Groffey, which, like I said, we've already read as the group read for Caribathon, which happened in June. So we need to find another book to fill the December slot. And it is a possibility that we will go back and just read one of the books that we didn't get a chance to read or discuss earlier in the year, including Next Year in Havana by Chanel Clayton. That's actually one of my top picks because I wanted to read that earlier this year, and it's a new book. But we may also do I'm not sure. We may also do Dreaming in Cuban. Both of those are Spanish. I think is Christina Garcia Cuban as well. Next Year in Havana, Chanel Clayton has Cuban heritage. Um, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure what we'll read in December. December is also a little bit of a different year where a lot of people are just not available for the book club discussion, especially because now we'll have to change. And in order to keep the book club contained in 2025, we will have to have our discussion maybe around the holiday week, and that's not always so convenient for everyone. But we'll see. We will see. For now, we're focusing on the book club discussion in October, which we're reading this in October, but the discussion actually happens on the first Sunday in November. But I'd like to finish reading this book in order to get there. So we're going to read for another few minutes. If you don't mind, if you are joining, I'm reading this. Let me know in the comments what you're reading, if you're reading along with me. Thank you so much for being here. Oh. So I'm going to read for another 8 or 9 minutes. Hopefully will get me to the end of this chapter, and then we'll wrap it up. So we'll be out of here by 1 o'clock because there's another live that I want to join as a guest and participate in, and that starts at 1. So let's read. Thanks, Rumi. Okay. I have to go. This is so much fun. It's not fun. It's not a light read, but it's so immersive. That's what I mean to say. The Grand Paloma Resort by Clavis Natera is my current read. So I'll be telling you more about it later. Just read up to page 54, and it is about the two sisters contemplating the fallout of the accident that happened with the tourist child, an 8-year-old girl who is the daughter of who's the daughter in a family that's staying at the resort, has been hurt, and they're thinking and talking about how it's going to affect them, their careers. So that's where we're leaving it for today. Thank you so much for being here. I really enjoy spending time with you guys. I really enjoy coming here on these lives and just hanging out and reading. These are some of my favorite things to do. So I got some responsibilities that don't just that aren't just reading. Got some other responsibilities, but I do want to check in with Brown Girl Reading for her live. And so I will chat with you hopefully later and be able to tell you a little bit more about my book that I'm reading. And if you're interested in reading this book and discussing it with me, we're going to be having our discussion for the Runwright Reads Book Club on the first Sunday in November, which I think is November 2nd. So Sunday afternoon, we get on Zoom, first Sunday in the month, and we talk about the book that we read in the previous month. So this is the book I'm reading right now, even though I will also be reading this one, both of these by the same author, and I'll be discussing these on November 2nd. So get ready to join me if you can. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you had a great time, whatever it is that you're doing. Rumi24 Runwright Reads Girly has been working on her project, and my cozy little library is getting ready for exams, and they're usually on here for the lives, and I really appreciate their support. For everyone else who came in, who left a comment or left a heart, like the lives, or just joined for a little bit, even if you didn't say anything, I appreciate your company, appreciate your support. And of course, on YouTube, I save the lives so you can access them later. And there are lots of friends who watch them as a playback and read along with me in recorded time. And that is just amazing. So thank you so much. I won't be on here over the weekend, but hopefully on Monday we'll be back. We'll be back. So wishing you a happy day, happy evening, happy whatever, wherever. And I'll see you on Monday, hopefully. And enjoy. Happy reading, happy projecting, happy studying. Have a great evening or night. Thank you. Bye. Thank you so much for joining. For my friends on TikTok, I have to log off, but I'll try to come back on later if I have something new to share. I may even make a post. So see you later and see you guys on Monday. Okay, bye.